All right. So there we go. Quick review of last lesson. So we learned a module, how to create a module, how to use a module. So to create a module, just define the individual functions. And to use it, just use the file name of that module. And by the way, the module file has to be in the same folder of the application. So this is a module. You save into a file and save into a place folder where the application file is located. There is a way to import a module from different folder, but we are not going to try that. That should be the next level of Python, so we can leave that out. If you are interested in it, you can look up. You know how to.
Can you send me the link to the site you're on?
Yeah. Chat window. A copy there. You should have it now. Do you see it? Okay, let's see. Good. Even. Okay. Let's continue here. We are doing the review of last lesson, by the way. So, and then we learn a small topic, basically how to enter a using the input function to do a user input. So basically, when you run the script or application, it asks for input, and then at the prompt, you just enter value is captured. That's a interesting tool, actually. I don't believe I see it in other programming languages, maybe C++. Yeah. And the command line arguments, this is good. So you can pass values to your application or script as a command arguments. So you don't have to wait for the prompt like a user input. You don't have to hard code the input value in your application. So command line arguments is very, very useful. And couple questions to think about. One is use the command line arguments to write a similar script like we did in the class that do a one number multiply another number, do the multiplication of two numbers. We did the plus, so the multiply just simple, just use that asterisk. That should be easy to do. I hope you have tried it. And then the next one, instead of using the command line arguments, use the input user, the user input method to do the above, do the capture two numbers and then do the multiply. Okay. Let me see who is here now. All right, so this must be Alan. Let me capture. Someone just calling from iPhone. What's your name?
Nora.
Nora? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, Eno. Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. Let me record you in the attendance report. Where's that? Student attendance. Think Eno and Stephanie and Alan family haven't show up yet. Let me save that thing. Let's continue now. So the answer for the homework of lesson 8. For the first one, use the command line, pass 2 arguments. So value 1 as argument 1. And this second value, just multiply instead of plus and have the result. So you just print out the result. So to be exact, I think command line here. So we did the plus, add 2 numbers. So that basically you copy the whole thing here from input to the print at the last line. And you capture value 1, value 2, and instead of plus, you just replace plus with the star, the asterisk. That's for homework 1. Homework 2. Instead of using the command line arguments, you can simply actually just call the input method a couple times. So enter number 1, then they take a value 1 and enter number 2, value 2, and then have the result. So you can do this same thing. Yep. So we are not going to try that, and we'll just start lesson 9 right away. Lesson 9 is about file handling. So it's called, in every programming language, there's a file handling chapter, which is very important. Basically, let's say you run your program, you do some either text manipulation or math calculations, and you want to save the output or the result or output into a file. Well, how do you do that? So that involves, open a file and write to a file. And also, sometimes let's say you as a scientist, you have a lot of input data to process. You don't want to type in the data one data after another, one entry after another. You probably need provide sometimes one data file or multiple or many input data files. So you probably want to be able to open the file and read the data from your input file. So that's called a read from file or read file. Okay, so the file handling in Python, if you want to read a file, then you can just call the read method. Of course, you have to open a file. There's a function called open. You open a file, and with a read mode called R, that means read. So the open function. So this open doesn't belong to any module or anything. So that's why it's called a function, Python function open. It takes 2 parameters. The first one is the file name. Whatever you call your data or input file is just open, is a file name, comma, and then the second one is the mode, M-O-D-E, either called a mode or type. Yeah. So R stands for read. So you want to open an existing file to read. So that's what this open function is doing. And after you open it, it create a file object in Python called a file object, and save that object name or ID, assign that to F. The F, it just stands for, it's just a random variable called is a file object variable. Normally we call it F, but you can call it anything. You can call it a my file or my input file 1 or my output file 1 or whatever. You can, it's a variable. So that's F. And since you have the F object, then this is called a file object. And by definition, the file object F has a method. Well, it's similar. It's actually a function belong to that object. So we call it a method. So that's a file dot read. That's a built-in method. So this thing, it read the whole content of this file. So you open the file for reading, then the dot read reads everything, read everything, and then of course print out. Okay. And this assumes that this script, the 2-line Python script, is in a folder that the file.txt, this the input file, is located as well. That means in the 2 files, one is the application itself, another one is your input file. They both are under the same folder. So that's why the file name here doesn't have the path information. The path means that like the directory or location, PATH, path. If the file is, the input file is located somewhere else, you write your one folder is my Python apps, my Python scripts. Another folder you may call it, oh, my input files is somewhere else. Then you need to include that path along with your file name. For example, let's say your file is file.txt is located under a folder called the C column, that's a drive. You may have multiple drive on your computer. Sometimes the default is C, or the root volume is C, and additional like a D or E or F, G, and those single letter drives. Assuming you are using Windows computer. If you use a Mac, it's going to be a different path. Let's say you have a root folder on the drive C, the C drive is called a Python, and under the Python parent folder or directory, you have a subfolder called my files, or you can call it input files or whatever. And then in that my file folder, you have this file. So in this case, you enter the full path. The full path means the folder plus the file name, and also R to read. So they both do the same, actually do the same thing. Okay. Why don't we just try this one? Let me open up my editor here. It's a command session. Find my file. Where is it? Let me think. Yeah, I got it. For a moment. Book, Python. I think I call it exercise. Exercise, huh? Yeah, okay. Let's see. Read. How about let's edit. File read. Say 1. Example 1. How about e1.python? So I'm creating this file, and copy those 2 lines and save it. And just run it. See what happens. Very simple. Open the file to read. And we get error, of course. File none2. I didn't say unexpected intent. Oh yeah. Okay. See, in my example here, the 2 lines on the same, there's no indentation. So in the same column. But when I copy in, the first one got, indentation. The second not. So I need to edit the file. Remember, when you have extra space in front of the line, that makes this second line as a child of the first line. So since the first line is not a, a valid, like a logical operator or function definition or something like that. So it can't have child lines. our block. So we have to get rid of the spaces. Save it and run it. Now we get a new errors. Let's see what error we got. We run the program. It says line 1 open. So okay, something wrong with the open. What is complaining about? File not found error. No such file or directory called a file text. Okay, fine. That means we just try to read a file that doesn't exist. So you can see that if you try to read a file that does not exist, you get a file not found error. So what we need to do is file text. We need to create a file. Okay, this, how about this? This is line 1. This is line 2. So something like that. So we can even say hello world. It's assuming it's a text file. So anything, you can type anything. This is our input file. Now we want the file read program to read it. Let me clear my screen. Now run it. Read the full content of file.txt. Yeah, that's exactly the text we just entered into the file.txt. So yep, it just read everything out. Okay. Now let's try actually something interesting. Let's see, we move the file.txt to the temp directory. Now you can see that this file is not here anymore. The file moved to temp folder. By the way, this is a Mac. This is a Linux-like, so the full path is /. This is a Macintosh. Okay. If you use a Windows or PC, then the path is going to be again the C:\/ folder and the \. But anyway, so this is the idea. Now, if we run the program again, it's complaining about that file that exists because we moved away. So what we need is to file read. Just tell it, here's the path, go find it. It's under the temp folder. See if you can find it and read it. Clear the screen. Yes, it can find it. Okay, that's almost like the second case here. Let me do a quick check here. Okay. Okay, Max. Eno is left. Hope she will join later. Anyway, read by a line. You can see that the read. Oh, the read here. The read the whole thing. And how about, you may ask, how about I just want to read a part of it? I don't want to read everything. I only read, let's say, the first 25 character. Not everything, but the first 5 or first 2 or first 1 character. Yes, you can do that. If you pass a number to the read function or method, without, by default, it reads everything. But if you can specify the number of characters or bytes, called bytes or characters you want to read, of course, from very beginning. You can do that, just enter there. So let's try that. Let's change the file. Say I only want to read the 25. I assume that file has 25. If the file is less than 25, of course, if you enter 25, that read everything. If it's more than 25, it will just read the first 25 and then stop. Yeah, it's first 25. I guess I better count that like 15, 10, and then just, yeah, from there here, that's just 25 characters. It's not everything. Okay, that's how you read a part of the file. Part of the file, actually, I don't think that's that useful. I haven't used this kind of capability in other programming language. That's because unless you can enter like the beginning bytes, then you can like read any part of the file anywhere. But if only take one parameter, that's not that useful. But let me try that anyway, just in case. Let's see, we start at position 10 and read 25. See what happens. If that works, that'd be great. No, sorry, it take only one. It take only one, so well, bummer. Okay, read by line I think is more useful. Basically, if I have a text file with multiple lines, a line means you have a return like called a line break or new line break. Like this is line 1, then you hit return, the return key, and type line 2, hit return key. And the file actually save a special character called a new line character return character. It's a very it's a long name. Basically, it's a new line. Basically, it's just to break the line instead of one single very long text line. With that return key, it add a line break. So then you have multiple lines. So one way to count the line is use Mac is WC. They call it word count, but by line, count how many lines my file contains. It says 3. You have 3 lines, right? I think that's an empty line. I guess it just empty, so it doesn't count. It's just 3 lines. But anyway, so let's see if we can read line by line instead of read the whole file. So let's again try. We add this file. Do there. So instead of read the first 25 or read the whole content, let's see if we can read by line. So the way to do that is read a line. That's a new function called a read one line. So if you type about read one line, it read one line. It just read the first line. And you think, oh, can we read more lines? Yeah, well, if you repeat that read line, it will read 2 lines, right? It read 2 lines. Then you may ask, oh, can we read all lines? Give me a second, okay? I need to hush my family. They are making a lot of noise here. Give me a second. I'll be back. Okay, sorry about that. I'm back. Can we use the read line, read all the whole content, just like the first example, the read the whole thing, but in a controlled way. We read line by line, but read every line. Yes, we can do that with a for loop, remember. Otherwise, you have to repeat that again to read all 3 lines. If you have 100 lines, you have to, just do that. That's just like a pointless, right? It's just like a too tedious. Then of course we have, remember we have that powerful for loop. So let's say read a line in the file. This is the file object. We can call it a line, one line, line 1, single line, or just X, or the L. It's okay. So a line here is a local variable. Nothing special about it. Of course, since we are using for loop, we need to add some other loop block. So when read every line and then print out a line. So now we don't need to read one line anymore because the A line is a line from the file. Then just print out a line. So that's a for loop. And run it. That read every line. You may see the extra spaces. That's from the print, so that's okay. That doesn't mean there's a blank line. It's just like the print add a new line because every line has a line break, and the print add a line break as well. So we got a 2-line break. That's why you got a extra space line. So that's a for loop. Oh, that's the line by line. And remember, when you open a file, remember to close it. Remember to close it. It's a good practice. There's multiple reasons. Reason one is, in some cases, due to buffering. Buffering means you save your change into memory. So you make the change to file, and if you don't close it, you won't see the change. So let's say you add a bunch of lines to a file, but if you don't close the file object, then the changes are only in the memory. And if you have another program try to read the file, then you won't read the changes. So of course, yeah, same as one, that free memory user memory, because every time you open a file, you open the object into memory. In memory, if you don't free it to close it, then you are using up your memory. If you open too many, then you run out of memory, your computer will crash. And reason 3 is, as a beginner, you won't open that many files. But if you're a professional software engineers or scientists, you open many files on one computer, and eventually you run out of file handles. Called, every time you open a file, it creates a file object, or we call it a file handle or file ID. Then for each computer, there's a limit on that, on the number of files you can open at the same time. Of course, that limit is very high. You probably never reach that limit. But for very large applications, companies like Google, Microsoft, they run big things. And then if they open many files, they never close it, then their server or computer will crash. So it's a good practice to remember to close a file when you open a file. So to close is easy. Just print. You open a file to read everything, then close it. Then when you close it, then that file object is clear out, flush out of memory. Then yeah. So basically, when you are done, it's nice to do close. Means I'm done, close me. So that's what it's doing. But when you write it, you won't notice anything. The only computer knows. You don't see anything. Anyway, that's how to close a file. Any questions so far? Okay. If not, let's move on to the next one. We just did the read file, then how to create a file. Then create a file. Of course, we have the open method, and we use R. But to create a file, there are 3 modes types. One is X, one is A, one is W. They all do the similar thing, but there are some subtle differences. X actually is new. I I don't see that in other programming languages, but in Python, that's X. X basically just create a file. It doesn't do read, it doesn't do write. It just okay, create a file. And also a return error if the file exists. Like if you already have that file on your disk, you try to create this file, you say, no, you have the file already. No. So I can see that X is useful when you are not sure. Let's see, I pick a file name. I'm not sure the file is there already. I just want to try. So yeah, so you can use X. Then the next one is A. A is the first letter of append. Append means the same as like to add. You know, you already have a file. You want to add more lines or more data to that file. Of course, in this case, if the file does not exist, let's say you try to add something to a file that does not even exist, instead of error out, in this case, it will create that file. So that's different from the X. The X is if you try to create a file, that file is there already, it will give you error. But in A, if the file is not there, you try to add something to the file, it will, okay, fine, you don't have the file. I'm going to create one from scratch or create a new, just fresh file. So you can add your whatever content to it. Then the W is just to write. It just write anything to the file. But the difference between WA is if the file does not exist, it will create a new one. In that case, it's similar to A, but the difference from A is that if the file is there and also has content, the write will overwrite the content. Basically, it will clean up that file, delete all the content, and then waiting for you to add a new content. So remember the difference between A and W. A is append. It will keep the old text or content and add a new one. The W is to replace. Yeah, if the file exists, it will replace the content. Replace the old one with new content. Okay. Okay, let's do an example. For example, using X option. So remember, let's do this. We are a file. What do we want to call it? We want to create, let's say, option X, py. Again, file, I'm not going to call it file. I can just XYZ. So I don't want you to stuck with F. Oh, F, that must be, I must use F. No, you don't have to use F. You can use anything as a file object variable. So open a file. Yeah, this is my file.txt. And option X. And again, yeah, you got a not F. You open a file, you close the file. That's good practice. Whenever you open something, you close it. So those two should be paired. They go together. So I'm going to save it. So we try to see if we can create the my file text. I don't want to show that we don't have that file, so it doesn't exist. So if we run the program, it should create this new file called a file. Yeah, myfile.txt. Python. Now the file should be there. Yeah, it's there. Of course, it has no content. If you want to show the says 0 size, because we just create a file and then we didn't write anything to it or append anything to it. It's an empty new file. We use the option X to create this file. Okay, yeah, we can run that twice, see what happens. So we run once, we create the file. If we run second time, I will get an error. Remember, when you use X option and the file is there already, then you get an error if you try to recreate it. So this one, file exists, error, file exists. So this, you try to create the X just allow you to create a new file, but in this case, the myfile.txt is not new anymore. If you try to, you get an error. So that's what happened if you run second time. I said run 2, you get an error. You run once, it's okay, it's get created. If you try to run the second time, third time, you always get error. So if you run, you always get error. So that's X. How about W? W means to replace a file. Okay. Yeah, before we run down, let's append something so we can see the replace. Okay, this is read open to append. Let's try that. Clear. That's my append. Why don't I just, yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Append. No, I don't have that file. So this time I'm going to switch back to if again, that's okay. Remember, no more spaces. So we'll open the file to append, but we need to really do something, append something. How to append a file something? Oh, here is a append. Just write something. It's called a write method, okay? Yeah, just the append means you open it with a, but to write, you still have to use the write method to add something, okay? Now the file has more content. How about this? Now the file has some content, not more. It's not empty anymore. So we'll open the file to append, run the file, Python. Okay, of course, it's nothing until we see the file now contains 30 characters. And I'm going to open the file, my file. Cat is catalog of the file. I'm going to show me the content. Yeah, that content is now the file has some content. Oh, by the way, this writing doesn't add the new line. That's why my login prompt is show up there. So that's a different. So that's my command prompt. So the real content is that actually. To see the we need a line break. So to add a line break, actually, if we do this, add a called a \n. A means a new line. Means okay, this line is done, ready for next line. So I'm going to add a line break called a \n. N stands for new line. So let's run this program again. And clear the screen and then show the content of the file. So the first line doesn't have the new line break. That's why when we add the second line, it just add at the end. But at end of the second line, there's a \n. Now we have a line break. So this command prompt is shown on a different line, right? But anyway, so we got the idea. Oh, no, why don't we just add more here? Right, one more time, show the content. Now you can see the lines. They added 2 lines. They got a new line break. Only the first one we didn't add. So that's a append. How about write, overwrite? So now we come to the overwrite thing. So let's do the one to the overwrite thing. Use the W option. As this file, you open to write, but you have to write something. No line. So if you just open and close, that nothing happened, doesn't do anything to the file. So we really have to add something like write a new content. How about this? That, there. This time we should call it now the file has new content. And this time we remember to add a new line. So now, I'm going to save the file, clear the content. Remember this file got 2 lines, right? There's 2 lines from the other program there to append. Now if we run the override, the W option, now see the content. That's from this W override. So we open the file to write something, but the older one gone. The older one is replaced. So be careful when you open the file with W, because W will get rid of your older content. So if you force to play safe, you probably want to use A. But if you are sure that, hey, I don't care about the older content, I just want to use the same file name, I don't care about the older content, of course, you can use W. Okay? Okay. There's a scenario like if you work in a lab, you have colleagues, you all run the same program and share a one file to update, and then you forgot to use A, then you use W, then you write something to it, then the content created by your colleagues are gone. I'm sure they will be mad, right? So yeah, use A to play safe. Override, yeah, we try the override. Oh, good, that's time. Let me hurry up to the delete. So now we know how to read, how to write, how to add, and how about delete a file? Say I don't need a file. I create a file, I want to delete it. So to delete a file, you need to call the OS module. OS stands for operating system. So like if you use Windows, the OS is called a Windows, Microsoft Windows. If you use a Mac or Apple, then the OS is called Mac OS, or actually it's a kind of Linux as OS. But OS stands for operating system. That means the computer, the system level module, because the file is controlled by the OS. If you want to remove file, you have to call the OS module, basically asking your computer, hey, computer, I don't need this file, delete it. So you have to, when you create it, you don't have to. You can add, but when you delete it, the computer want to know you delete something. So you need to call this OS module and then method called remove. If you have a file you want to remove, you just remove and a file name. So let's try this example here. And here we have this. Let's try and remove this my file. So this file is still here. Let's get rid of the file, delete .python. Copy the code here. Yeah, too many. We get rid of the. Yeah, you want to leave a space inside there. And we want to delete. What's that? The my file text. Yep. Okay. If the file doesn't exist, then the file, you get something. The file doesn't exist. So yeah, if here is basically OS path. So OS has a variable called path, and then there's a method called, hey, you try to delete something. I'm going to check if the file is really there. If not, then I'm going to throw error to you. So let's try everything. Let's see my file 1. We gave it a file that doesn't actually exist. See if we get an error. So this is a delete. Try to delete a file. Python. File doesn't exist. That's because we ask it to. This is a good idea, But some people, get like impatient, try to delete file, and then just like, okay, remove this file. Then if it doesn't exist, you get an error. So it's a good idea to check it first. Check the whole, I'm going to delete a file, but I want to see if the file is there. If it's there, delete it. Else, give me a message. Tell me that, okay, the file is not there, instead of getting error. If you don't have that thing, oops. Let's see, get rid of that thing, and that thing. You just, come here and impatiently delete file for me, and see what happens. Say it said, file not found error, no such file. What you're talking about? It start to yell at you, right? So play nice. And do this kind of thing, right? Yeah, do this kind of check thingy. This is good. This is good when you run it. The file is down there. Then if you really want to delete a file that does exist, then yeah. So this file is there. Remember, we have this file. The file is still here. Now let's run it. Let's see the file is still there. No, the file is deleted. That's how you delete a file. But when you delete file, yeah, be careful. If you don't delete the file you do not want to delete. Okay, I think that's it. Sorry for the extra minutes. Again, few questions to think about. And yeah, that's it for today. I'll see you next Friday. If you have any questions, you can stay. Otherwise, have a
Okay,
good weekend.
bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Yep.